What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be reviewing Fourth Dimension. This game came out in 1979 from the TSR company, and it is for 2 players. Now, the object of the Fourth Dimension is you are trying to capture your opponent's Time Lord. Sound familiar, Doctor Who fans? This is an abstract strategy game. Now, the interesting thing with this game is that you are actually going to be able to warp off of the board and then beam back down onto the board 2 spaces from where you originally warped from. So that can make the game rather interesting, and especially the captures. So let's go ahead and show you Fourth Dimension. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and show you the components really quick. Right here you have the game board, and this is not a large game board. This is how big my hand is compared with the game board, so it's rather small. You have 5 pieces to this game, and 4 of them you're going to be playing with on the board, and the other one is a marker of sorts. The object of the game is you're trying to capture your opponent's Time Lord, which is the biggest piece, and this is the Time Lord over here. These here are your Guardians. This is the next biggest piece. Below that, you have your Rangers over here, and then finally, you have your little warriors. Now, as far as movement goes with this game, each piece can only move 1 space. So he can move like this, he can move like this. There's not any special movements per piece. Each piece was only going to be allowed to move 1 space. And they can move up, down, left, right, but they cannot move diagonally. Now, the way capturing in this game works is typically the bigger pieces will capture the smaller pieces. So, for example, this guy, which is the Ranger, will be able to capture the little guy over here, which is the Warrior. Now, the way capturing works is you're not going to actually occupy the space that your captured piece is on. All you're going to have to do is just move adjacent to him, either above, below him, or next to him, and then you're going to go ahead and remove the piece off of the board like that. Now, the Time Lord can capture the Guardians and the Rangers. The Guardians can capture the Rangers and the Warriors, which are those little guys, and then the Rangers can capture the Warriors. And the Warriors, which are the littlest piece, are the only pieces that will be able to capture the Time Lord. And again, if you are able to get the Time Lord out of the game, you are going to go ahead and win the game. Now, there's 3 different types of moves that happen in this game. The first one, obviously, is just moving one of your pieces up, down, left, right. And the second one is that you're going to do what is called a time warp. What a time warp is you're going to basically pick a piece, say something like this, and put this little time warp marker on here, like so, where you were, and you're going to go into this little area right over here that's numbered. And the third thing is called a beam down. Now, you're not going to be able to do this on your first turn, but what a beam down basically means is that you're going to basically take the piece that is in this area and bring it back onto the board up to 2 spaces from the marker. So I could beam this spot person over here, I could beam him here, I could beam him here, etc. Now, no 2 pieces can occupy the same space, and any piece can go ahead and actually land on this if they need to. Now, the interesting thing is, if on your next turn, you do not actually have to beam back down on the board, but if you decide not to, what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and move this to the 2nd circle, and on your next turn, if you don't beam down, you're going to move it onto the 3rd circle. Now, after that, if you do not beam down, this piece is going to be knocked out of play, and that is the way it works. Now, there are a couple ways that you can also capture pieces. And the first one, let's just say I have a warrior over here. The first way you can capture him is to just take the piece that can capture that piece and just get next to him. If you're able to do that, you will go ahead and take the piece off. The second way is by doing a beam down. Let's say I had a piece over here, and this guy had warped on a previous turn from here. He can go ahead and get back on this spot, and then again go 2 spaces over from where he was, and he could go ahead and capture a piece that way. And the third way is what is called suicide. Let's say I had my opponent that landed over here on his turn, and he went ahead and ended his turn. Since it is my turn, now that I am next to this guy, I will go ahead and be able to just simply take him off the board because he's next to me, so I could do like that. Now, each piece can only capture once per turn. You can't make multiple captures, but if you have 2 pieces like this, which are suicides, if your opponent ended up his turn like this, however, you could actually remove both of these pieces off of the board. Now, another thing you can't do is you cannot move a piece and then warp off with that piece you just moved. You have to basically move a piece and then pick another piece to go ahead and warp off the board with, like so. So let's just kind of give you an example of how this works. I'll just set this up a little bit like so, and it's my turn. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my first thing, which is the suicide. I'll go ahead and take this piece off since this is where my opponent left his last piece. That's the first thing I can do. The second thing I'm going to go ahead and do is move. So I'm going to go ahead and move this guy over here. Now, since this was a suicide, I can actually go ahead and capture this piece as well. So let's just say I go ahead and decide to capture this piece. Let's just say I time warp this guy off the board on a previous turn. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and beam him back down. Let's just say I decide to go ahead and do that. So I'll go ahead and beam over here. So let's say I go 1 and then 2. I'll have landed next to this guy, which is the warrior, so I'll be able to capture him and place him off the board like so. And the next thing I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to go ahead and warp another piece off. So let's just say I decide to warp my Time Lord off the board, and I'll go ahead and put this marker here and then take him off the board like so. Now, after your first move, you can do this in any order. You can go ahead and beam down first, and then warp, and then move one of your characters, etc. And so kind of that's the way the game works. You're just basically going to be setting your pieces up, and you're ultimately going to be trying to capture your opponent's Time Lord. And the game will end in a draw if each player's warriors are captured, because without your warriors, you are not going to be able to capture the Time Lord. And that, guys, is the Fourth Dimension. So, my thoughts on the Fourth Dimension. Well, this is a game that I like. It's rather interesting. I've never quite seen a game where you can actually leave the board and then come back and 2 spaces away from where you came from. That really makes the dynamic of this game rather interesting. Now, I haven't played this game that much, but one thing I did notice is that it does take a while for captures to happen, and the reason is because each piece can only move 1 space. So my thought is that a lot of time is spent just preparing your army so you can go ahead and get the best offense and defense going. Now, you have to really be careful watching out for those beam downs, because I actually lost my Time Lord the last time I played my wife because I was not paying attention, which can easily happen. So a lot of what this game does entail, too, is setting up your defenses around where the person who warped last left off, because if you can set your defense up correctly, he may not actually be able to get off the board at risk being captured, and he may lose that piece anyway. Now, one thing about this game is that the board is rather small and the pieces are kind of boring looking. I mean, there's not much character to them. I'm really surprised, though, that they have not re-released this game. Because this is a pretty good game, and especially the Doctor Who people. Where are you guys at, man? This is a Time Lord game. I think somebody needs to go ahead and program some Daleks to go into the CEO's office and say, "You will release Fourth Dimension as a Doctor Who game, or you will be exterminated." So anyway, guys, that is my review of the Fourth Dimension. I hope you all have a great day. Keep on gaming!